textbook pages, right? And then we can work on that. Okay, so we're trying to get through 2.7. So we're going to have absolute value of x is less than or equal to 3. Right? What do we do for equations with absolute value? What do we do? Right, we got the absolute value bars by themselves, and what do? We kind of split it into equations, right? Right, we made everything inside here plus or minus. So what would my first equation be here? Max, do you know? Get to 3, right? And then what about the other one?
X is less than
Just positive x is less than or equal to 3, right? And then let's solve for x over here, right? How do I solve for this x? Divide by -1. Now we get x is greater than or equal to -3, right? So now we have x is greater than or equal to -3, and so these are an and, right? Whenever we're solving an absolute value inequality, we split up into two inequalities. We solve for x in both of them. At the end, it becomes an and, okay? It becomes an and at the end. So x is greater than or equal to -3, and x is less than or equal to 3. How do I graph that? How do I graph that? -3, I have +3. Do I get hollow circles or solid dots? Solid circles, yeah, solid dots. And then where do I shade? This is a review of the compound inequalities, right? X is greater than or equal to -3, and x is less than or equal to 3. So where do I shade? In the middle, right? Is that what you're going to say, Charlie?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Right, so everywhere x is to the right of -3, and in addition to that, also to the left of 3, which is in the middle here, okay? And then we want interval notation. So how do I write this interval? -3, comma, +3. What kind of, what are the edges? Downsides. Brackets, yeah, but square brackets on both. Square brackets on both. Okay? You guys okay with that? Yeah.
where did that 1 come from? It was subtracted. Or that divided.
Right, so this becomes two equations when I break it out of the absolute value. I do plus or minus x plus or equal to, yeah.
Why is it in brackets?
So I have, when I graph it, I have solid dots here. So the way I represent the solid dots in interval notation is I use a square bracket. Yeah, right? Because I've got greater than or equal to, and I've got less than or equal to. Yeah.
But you want us to circle on this answer.
Interval notation. Circle the interval. Yeah.
Do you want to circle the x is greater than or equal to -3 and?
No, this is good enough. The interval notation. This is your final answer. Yeah. Right. So interval notation. Okay. You okay with that? Okay, so my absolute value of x is less than -3. How do I solve this? How do I solve this? What am I going to do first? Quinn, you know? Alright. Here's a trick question. Trick question, right? Remember from 2.5 when we had like absolute value of x equals -3? What did we say about that? What did we say about that? Does this ever have solutions? No, why? Yeah, right. Can the absolute value of a number be negative? No, right? It can't be negative. It can't equal a negative number. So can the absolute value of a number be less than a negative? No, because it still have to be negative, right? So this has no solutions. No solutions, right? This has no solutions. So this one right here, absolute value of x is less than -3. That would mean my absolute value needs to be negative, which would have no solutions. What about if I wrote absolute value of x is greater than -3? What solutions would that be? Would that be a no solutions? Would we go about like as usual with like a plus x and a minus x? Absolute value of x is greater than -3. Still no solutions? What'd you say, Leah? Okay, Leah thinks plus or minus. right? So the absolute value of x, right? It doesn't matter what x is, right? When I plug it in, this number, and I take the absolute value, this number on the left will be what?
Positive.
It'll be positive or 0, right? So it'll be some positive number, right? Will that be greater than -3? Yeah, it'll always be greater than -3. So this would be all reals. This would be all real numbers. So if you want to write that in, it's not part of the notes, but I just wanted to talk about that. All right, the absolute value of a number will always be positive, so it'll always be greater than -3, right? Positive numbers are always greater than -3. Okay. Part C, I guess, okay, if I'm doing on part C. Absolute value of x plus 3 is less than 7. Right? So for this one, right, I've got a positive number over here, so I'm going to have to just go ahead and start splitting my inequality up, right? So what are my two inequalities, Mason?
It'd be negative x plus, it'd be negative x minus, no, plus 3.
Parentheses,
Greater than
right?
7,
Less
yeah.
than 7, and then what's the other one?
And then it'd be just x plus 3 is greater than 7. Okay.
Yeah, or less than 7, yeah. So this one, right, I can take the parentheses away since it's just 1 in front of it, so -3. X is less than 4, and, right, let me distribute this negative, negative x. -3 is less than 7, right, add 3 to both sides. Negative x is less than 10, divided by -1. What do I do when I divide by -1? Gotta flip my inequality symbol. Right, so I got x is greater than -10, and x is less than 4. This is bad handwriting. Apologies. It's still bad handwriting. Okay. X is greater than -10, and x is less than 4. Alright, where am I going to shade? Right, so so Ian, do I get open circles or solid dots here?
Open circles.
Open circles. Why is that?
Because it's not greater than
It's not or equal to, yeah, there's no or equal to underlined, okay? So where do I shade for this one? X is both greater than -10 and it's less than 4, so where do I shade? Did I hear someone say that?
middle.
In the middle, yeah, right? I gotta be to the right of -10 and I also have to be to the left of 4, right? That happens in the middle. Okay. D, absolute value of x plus 4. So let's do this. So I'm on heading D. I'm on number D right there, part D. What do I need to do first with this? Always, yeah, so I gotta get the absolute value part by itself, right? So I gotta get rid of this plus 4 here. So I just subtract 4. Absolute value of x is less than or equal to 4. Okay. Got a positive number here, so I don't have to worry about the no solution stuff, right? I split this up into 2 inequalities, right? Right. So Danny, do you know? It's all good. It's all good. Emily, do you want to help him out? Yeah, what does this split up into? So I'm going to get positive x is less than or equal to 4, and a negative x is less than or equal to 4. Good job. Right? Solve for x here. So solve for x in both of them. It's already solved here. It's already solved for x here. Right? For this one, how do I solve for x? What do I have to do? Divide by -1. What do I do when I do that? Flip. Okay, someone's going to forget to do that on the test next week. Don't be that person. Don't forget to flip. Right? So x is greater than 4, and then do I have an and or an or here? I always have an and, right, for these. Right? The only compound equalities with an or are the ones where the problem explicitly said it, right? Yeah. x is less than or equal to 4 and x is greater than or equal to negative 4. So do I get solid dots or hollow circles here? Solid dots, yep. Where do I shade? In the middle, right? It's got to be to the right of negative 4 and it's got to be to the left of positive 4. My interval would be with brackets in. Circle my answer from Mr. Rushka. Okay? Does that make sense? You guys are okay if I move on to part E? Okay with that? Yeah. Yeah. Sheldon?
For C, do we still have to do the interval notation?
What's that?
For C, we have to do the interval notation.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. Sorry, I forgot that. What would it be, Sheldon?
-10, comma 4.
Yeah, with parentheses. Thank you, my bad. That's my fault, guys. Alright, absolute value, x minus 3 all over 5. Less than 1. Alright, Sophia, what am I going to do?
Split it into
2, yeah. So what's my first one going to be? Okay, make sure I put my parentheses around my numerator, okay? And then the other one's going to be positive x minus 3 all over 5. So less than 1. Okay? Okay. So what do I do first when I solve for x here? Yeah, so I want to get rid of this. I hate my fractions, right? So I'm going to multiply by 5 on both sides. Negative x minus 3 is less than 5. I'm going to distribute my negative. I get negative x plus 3 is less than 5. Subtract 3. Negative x is less than 2. And then when I divide by negative 1, I do what? Flip the inequality symbol. I flip my inequality symbol. X is greater than negative 2. Right? So now I'm going to solve, come over here and solve for x. And I get x minus 3 is less than 5. And I add 3 to both sides. And I get x is less than 8. X is less than 8. What word do I write in between them? And, right? Graph this, I got negative 2, I've got 8. Where do I shade? In the middle, yeah. X is greater than negative 2, so I've got to be to the right of negative 2. And x is less than 8, so I also have to be to the left of 8. So that happens in the middle here. Right? Interval is negative 2. Alright, anyone having trouble with that one? Okay, maybe we go on to F. The absolute value of 6 minus 3x. Right, I've got a positive number here on the right, so I don't need to worry. I don't need to worry about like all the no solutions and all real stuff. I got a positive number. Okay. Maggie, what do I do first?
-6 minus 3x.
4 and then positive, right? Positive 6 minus 3x. Alright. So if we solve for x over here, I get negative 6 plus 3x plus 4, and I get add 6 to both sides. Alright. Dividing by 3, do I flip the inequality symbol? No, why? It's not negative, yeah. So I divide it by a positive, so I don't worry about it. Okay. And then over here, I'm gonna subtract 6 on both sides. Negative 3x plus the negative 2. when I divide by -3? I do flip it. Why? Because I'm dividing by a negative, yeah. Right? X is less than 2/3 and X is greater than 2/3, right? Right, where do I shade? Yeah, and then I get open circles, right? What's my interval going to be, Leah? Oh yeah, parentheses. Yeah. Yeah. What do I have on the right? Parentheses, yeah. Okay. We're okay with that? Alright, so and it says to do the exact same thing, right? Yeah. So on number 2 on the back, number 2 on the back, number 2 on the back, right? I have absolute value of x is greater than or equal to 3. Right, so for this, yeah, Danny? Yeah, Sheldon? Okay. Right, so I'm going to split these up, right? Can an absolute value of a number be greater than or equal to 3?
Yes.
Yeah, it can. So I'm going to have solutions. Yeah, I'm going to split these up. I'm going to have x is greater than or equal to 3, right? And I'll have negative x. Wait, what would I have? I'll have okay, yeah, so now negative x is greater than or equal to 3. Right. So this one's already solved for x. Right, this one on the right here, I'm going to divide by -1. If x is less than or equal to -3. Right. Right. So those are my two solutions. This one's a little different, right? So if I graph my solution set, right, I'm going to plot -3, I'm going to plot +3, right? Where am I going to shade? Where am I going to shade? So I'm not going to, so I want absolute value of x to be greater than 3, right? So where are the numbers where the absolute value is less than 3? It's in the middle, right? Yeah, so I'm going to have to do one to the right and one to the left. Right? This one's different, right? This one becomes an or. This one becomes an or. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
But didn't you just earlier say that unless it explicitly says it's more than a...
Yeah, I did. That was a mistake. I'm sorry.
That just confused my mind.
I know, it does confuse your mind. I'm sorry. I'm doing my best. Yeah, I'm going to make mistakes. Yeah. So, I will say, right, let's think about this. If we want the absolute value to be less than a number, right, if we want it to be less than a number, right, one way to think about absolute value, the absolute value of a number is just its distance from 0 on a number line, right? So if we have like 0 right here, and we have some number like x, we have some number x, right? The absolute value of x, right, is just this distance from x to 0 on the number line, right? Yeah. Yeah. Right? Or if we have like negative x, right? The absolute value would be that same distance, right? That same distance. So if we think about it, guys, here's one good way of looking at it. So on that front page, all of my inequality symbols were what? They were all less than or equal to, right? So those are going to be we're going to be shading in the middle for those. We're going to be shading in the middle of my number line, right? Because I want to establish an upper bound. So like for part A on the front, number 1, right? I've got absolute value of x is less than or equal to 3. Okay? Less than or equal to 3, right? We don't want, that means we want it to be less than or equal to 3. That means we don't want our solution to be too far from the middle of the number line, right? So that's kind of a good way of remembering, like, I should shade in the middle, right? We want to keep our absolute value small. We don't want it to get too far away, right? Right? Here, right, we want our absolute value of x to be greater than or equal to 3. So we don't want our numbers to be too close to the middle. So that's why I shaded on the outside, so that makes any sense. Yeah. My apologies though. That is an error. That is an errata. That is an erratum.
Good thing that this is a big zone.
It is a big zone.
It is?
Yeah.
Oh, that counts.
Alright. Are we okay if I move on to what am I on? B? Okay if I move on to B? We actually talked about B on the last page, right? What did we say? If absolute value of x is greater than -3, what's the solution for that? So that was if it's less than -3, right? If it's less than -3, there's no solutions because you can't have an absolute value that's negative. But yeah.
Well, it's all real, but for A, what's right here?
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah. So for the interval notation, right? Did we talk about this with the U in the other class?
Yes.
Okay. So if I gave you a number line and had you do that in interval notation, would you know how to do that? Like just this, what would that be? It'd be -infinity, right, to 0, or to 3, with a bracket. If I gave you just the right side, would you know how to shade that in interval notation? What would that be, Quinn? Yeah. Okay, so these both work. The way we do both of them, we do a U in between, okay?
But isn't the one on the left negative 3, not 3?
Thank you, thank you. Yep. Okay. And then for B, right? We want all the x, we want all the numbers whose absolute value is greater than -3, right? Which numbers is that?
All real numbers.
All. Right, how do I write all real numbers in interval notation?
Negative infinity times unity.
Yep. All real numbers in the interval notation. Right? Every single number has an absolute value that's greater than -3, right? Because absolute value has to be positive or it has to be 0, right? And 0 and any positive number is always greater than -3. Okay? Okay? Let's talk about C. Absolute value of x minus 5 is greater than or equal to 8. Right, so I'm going to keep doing the same thing, right? You x minus 5 positive is greater than or equal to 8, and then negative quantity x minus 5 is greater than or equal to 8. Right? So I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Okay, x is greater than or equal to 13. Right? Distribute over here negative x. Plus 5 is greater than or equal to 8. 5. Negative x is greater than or equal to 3. Divide both sides by -1. What do I do when I divide by -1?
Flip it.
Yeah, x is less than or equal to -3. Yeah. So this becomes what for greater than or and? Greater than. This becomes or. This becomes or, right? Okay, so I have -3. Solid dot, I have 13. Solid dot, right? And then where do I shade? Its absolute value is greater than or equal to 8, so I don't want numbers that are too close to 0, so where do I shade? Left and right, yeah, on the outside. And Joey, what are my two intervals?
It's negative infinity, -3, bracket. 13, infinity.
Nice, good job. Yeah, that's my answer. You guys all good with that? Negative x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 8. I'm going to have positive x minus 2 is greater than or equal to 8. I have negative x plus 2 is greater than or equal to 8. I solve for x. Negative x is greater than or equal to 6. X is less than negative 6. Or x is greater than or equal to 10. Right, so we go ahead and graph that right here. Right, so we have negative 6. We have 10. Where am I going to shade? Where am I going to shade? Left and right, right? I want to be less than or equal to negative 6. I want to be greater than or equal to 20. So I have negative infinity, negative 6, union 10 to positive. Okay, E, right? We got a negative number on the right, don't we? Does anyone think it's all real solutions? Not quite, right? Yeah. So what do we have to do first before we make that determination? We got to get all this up in absolute value bars by itself first. We got to add 3 to both sides. I get absolute value of 9 plus 4x greater than 1. Now, we're going to have solutions, right? So you do negative 9 plus 4x greater than 1 and positive 9 plus 4x greater than 1. Subtract 9 from both sides. 4x greater than negative 8. What about 4? We get x is greater than negative 2. Right? What about over here? We get negative 9 minus 4x. Greater than 1, add 10, add 9 to both sides. We get 10, I have myself. Negative 4x is greater than 10. I divide by negative 4. What do I do when I divide by negative 4?
Flip it.
Flip it. Negative 4 x less than negative 5 halves. Alright, so I've got negative 2. Negative 5 halves, right? So I'm either greater or so I'm greater than negative 2, so I'm going to shade to the right of negative 2. Wait.
Wouldn't it be the other way?
What's that?
Wouldn't the negative 5 be the other way?
Oh, okay, thank you. Negative 5 seconds, thank you.
Good afternoon, Cathedral.
Nice, stay to the outside.
It's a beautiful day outside.
Okay,
Sunshine.
the homework is on school duty.
Hello, community. We hope you all have a fantastic day. It's Thursday. Yeah, it's Friday tomorrow. So let's thank God for our blessings. Thank your teachers on the way out. Let's pray together, as is our.
All right, guys, phones away for prayer. Phones away while we're praying.
Hail Mary, full
Little
of
grace,
grace,
the
the Lord is
with thee.
Blessed art thou among women, blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. In the name of the
Great work,
Father,
guys.
Son, and Holy Spirit.
Great work.
Amen. And amen.
maybe he can.